Midstate Money Talk. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, joined today by Kevin Dietrich and Joe Dietrich, partners at First Choice Financial Services Incorporated. And to our viewers at home, are you thinking about retirement, but perhaps you're afraid to retire too soon? Well, a lot of people have that feeling, and we're going to go through some top 10 common fears that people have, but even better, we're going to talk about some solutions to help alleviate some of those fears so that you can understand if you're ready to take the plunge into that beautiful life called retirement. So stay with us today. Joe, how are you?
I'm doing well. Good to be here.
It's so good to be with you. I'm excited about today's show. Kevin, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Good to see you.
Good to see you both. And you always make time to come into the studio because I know you've been so busy. You have the live events, the workshops, the shows have been doing so well. You have new clients coming in every week, and yet I get to see you both. I'm so excited. Well, so often people are thinking about, oh my gosh, I just want to retire. I want to know if I'm ready. But sometimes they have some fears. So let's go over some of those common ones. The first one is the most common fear, running out of money, Kevin. Ugh.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what we hear all the time. The biggest fear is running out of money. And I think because they don't have a plan.
Yes.
If they have a plan, I think they would feel more comfortable knowing, hey, is there going to be a place down the road in the plan that I might run out of money? Is there something I can do about that? If you would know that, wouldn't you feel more relaxed about retiring sooner? And a lot of folks come in our office, they want to retire at a particular date. They say, well, I think I want to retire at 62, but I think I need to work till 65. And I say, why do you feel like you need to work till 65? I don't think I have enough money. Well, let's put our expertise to the test and see if that might be efficient for you to retire at 62. And a lot of times it is. It's just proper planning. I think it goes a long way.
Absolutely, and you can do things like retirement calculators to estimate longevity risk because everything is so personalized to each client that comes in.
Yeah, we do that on our own. We use calculators and programs and 45 years plus experience in our office. We use all of those tools at our disposal. And one of our tools we just developed actually is firstchoicequiz.com. You can go on to that, just search for it through Google or click on the QR code at the end of the segment. And that's one of the tools that we have to offer. We have a tax calculator as well on our website. So our website is filled with resources and tools that just check it out.
It's a great website.
It
truly is. People that are afraid of running out of money, what about working part-time, Kevin? Do you ever tell people, go do something fun that you enjoy just for some extra supplemental income if you're nervous?
If they want to do that. But sometimes folks that want to retire just want to retire. They don't want to work anymore. I think it's more like they don't want to have to go to work.
Yes.
That's why we hear a lot.
Yeah, we often see people that were like, what do you want to do in retirement? I don't really know. You want to work part-time? Maybe, It's really about retiring to something. We talk a lot about what is your retirement goals and aspirations, financially and otherwise. So it's a matter of retiring to something, not just stopping working. I'm retiring from something.
A lot of people want to volunteer at their church or at charities. They just don't have time because they're working. Or they want to go on vacations and they never had time. Or they want to read this book or do this or plant a garden. There's so much that they want to do. They don't want to have to go to work. But if they want to go to work for fun, to earn a little extra money for some vacations, whatever, that's great. They can do that.
You had me at read a book and plant a garden.
There you go.
It's all about me. So let's talk a little bit more about the firstchoicequiz.com. Since we talked about that, what does that look like for someone who's visiting that for the very first time? Firstchoicequiz.com.
So you're going to put some information that's unique to you into the quiz, and it's going to show you some results regarding Social Security, regarding taxes, income, insurance, that sort of thing. It's really just to give you a baseline, how ready am I to retire? It's not the end-all be-all. It's not a complete retirement plan. That's something that we do through our process in the office, sitting down with people, but it is a good snapshot to start.
Okay, excellent. Thank you both so much. Joe, what about rising healthcare costs? People are thinking about retirement, but they see, oh my gosh, all of these healthcare costs, they keep going up and up and up. What do you say to those folks?
A lot of the fears entering retirement is because we don't know. The unknown is fearful.
Yes.
So educate yourself. Find out what your options are, what best fits for you. Sit down with somebody like us who can explain kind of the differences of your Medicare options, your supplemental coverages, long-term care, how all this is going to fit together in your overall retirement plan.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
and then
part of that, I think, is also if your employer-sponsored plan has the option to have a HSA, take it. take it. Even if you're putting a small percentage of your income going into that, even if it's 1% or whatever, take advantage of that, because that's going to pay dividends down the road.
And that would be your healthcare savings account for people that are wondering what HSA stands for.
That's a good point, yes.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. Now, what about this next one? Kevin, you actually tapped in on this a little bit earlier. Boredom and loss of purpose in retirement. How do you help assess what someone's overall picture will look like? Do you ask questions like, hey, what are you going to do with all your free time?
Yeah, the first sit down we have with our folks is that we ask that, what do you want to do when you're retired?
Yeah.
And they scratch their head, or their eyes roll back a little bit and say, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I said, a lot of times when we get married, we have all these plans, these dreams, these goals, and then life hits us.
It's true.
Marriage is hard sometimes. Children, raising children sometimes can be very hard. Life, hits us. Job, loss. I mean, just a lot of stuff hits us, and we stop dreaming. We stop having goals a lot of times.
It's true.
Or they just get pushed aside, and then we forget about them. So this is having a purpose. Joe mentions all the time. He just mentioned earlier, you're retiring to something, not from something.
Yes.
So you may be retiring from a job, but you also want to retire to something that you enjoy and you want to do. Maybe it's another job that you've always wanted to do, and you couldn't do it. And now you can do it because money isn't an issue as far as your income coming in.
Yes.
So there's a lot of things that can play a factor in that.
There's a big emotional portion to this, and so this is a real fear we talk about a lot of times. But our job provides us a lot of times with meaning, friendships, community, things like that. We're contributing. All of those things aren't going to go away. Those intrinsic needs that we have. So we still need to find, do we have a community around us that, you may be married and have kids, that's great. What's your friend group like? Do you go to church? Do you volunteer? All of these things you need to be thinking about and fostering those relationships. Finding a place where you can, express your creativity or give back in some way. It may not look like a job or a 9-to-5, but it doesn't mean that it's any less important.
Correct.
Absolutely. People need to have purpose and meaning when it comes to their retirement years, and they can really just redesign their whole life with what they want to do.
It's an adventure.
It
That's
really
how you have to look at
is.
it.
It really
it's the
is.
next chapter in our life.
Yeah.
Yes,
We
absolutely.
want to turn those fears to peace of mind.
You really do.
Yep.
You really do. Well, Joe, I know that you and Kevin have a very special offer to present to our viewers at home. Let's talk about that before we take our first commercial break today.
Absolutely. So Kevin mentioned the firstchoicequiz.com. That's a great resource. But you can also go to our website, or you can call the number on the screen, 888-959-2743. In fact, you can also pull out your cell phone and just scan the QR code. All of these are great ways to be able to take the first step to reach us. And what we would be able to do is then sit down over a couple of meetings and create a customized, complimentary retirement plan that's specialized just for you.
I love that. And again, it's firstchoicequiz.com.
That's right.
Fantastic. To our viewers at home, there's a number to call on your screen, 888-959-2743. If you're in the viewing audience today and you're feeling some of these same fears that we're talking about, you want to take that deep dive into retirement, but there's just something that's making you say no, you're not sure. Today's show is just for you, and if you're having some of these fears, why not take advantage of the complimentary consultation? Once again, 888-959-2743, or you can click on the QR code at the bottom corner of your screen. We're going to take a very short commercial break. Don't go anywhere. We have more of the top 10 common fears when it comes to retiring too soon. Stay tuned.
How I got in the world of finance? My brother-in-law had a friend that was in the business, and he was looking to find an agent, and I was looking for a job. I was really hesitant, almost didn't do it. But then I thought, I got to have a job while I'm looking for a future, and so that's why I took it. And then one day I was asked to deliver a death claim check to a family. This was a very emotional situation, and my son was there watching this whole thing. So as I sat down and went over the amount of the money and how it should be spent, she was just up and hugging me and thanking me. And at that point in time, it hit me that what I'm doing is really important. It's not just being in the life insurance business. And so it was just a few months till I was independent. I couldn't do what I wanted to do as a captive agent. As an independent, it allowed me to be flexible with my time. And now the blessing is that Kevin, that young man I was talking about, he is now joining me in my practice. And his brother, Joe, is joining me in the practice. So the future of First Choice Financial Services is in great hands.
Welcome back to Mid-State Money Talk. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, joined today by Kevin Dietrich and Joe Dietrich. They are partners at First Choice Financial Services Incorporated, and we're talking all about some of the top 10 common fears that people have about retiring too soon. And better still, what are the solutions so that you can retire with peace of mind? Joe, this next one, this is a big one that a lot of people are thinking about and feeling right now, specifically stock market volatility.
That's right,
Big
volatility.
Fear.
Absolutely, and rightfully so. Most of our investments have been set and forget for many, many years.
Yes.
401ks, IRAs, 403bs. We're just putting those in. We might not even understand what they're in. We see that a lot. Like, well, I put that in there 20 years ago. I don't even know what I have, kind of thing. Well, as we're approaching retirement, now we need to start controlling that volatility, because once we get into that red zone, 5 years before and after our retirement age, this is a very important time. If we take a big loss in those times, our sequence of return risk goes through the roof. That means, we're now trying to rely on those funds a little bit more. They're not growing the way that we expected them to, and we're at a greater risk of running out of money. So volatility is a real fear, but it's something that we can plan for. So if we sit down and can plan through this, we want to look at our asset location, our asset allocation. We want to figure out what kind of accounts do we have or should we have, because the tools that we use in retirement aren't necessarily the tools that we used when we're 20, 30, or 40 years old. So we want to be looking at all of the investment options as tools. Do we have money in cash and CDs and money market accounts? Do we still have our stocks and bonds? That's good. Do we need to bring in the annuity portions of it for some guaranteed lifetime income? We need to use whatever tools that are at our disposal that's best for our client.
Okay. And what about having a cash reserve just in case of maybe 3 to 5 years? Would you suggest something like that, Joe?
Yeah, so when we're planning our strategic withdrawals or our income plan, that's going to be part of it. What is it that we need for our emergency funds on the very immediate future? Do we have a safer bucket then for our immediate income needs over several years? What do we need long term? Do we have something that is ready to be supplemented if, say, inflation goes out of control like it's been for the last couple of years, that we can turn on another source of income? So we want to use these strategies and look not just at our retirement date at 62 or 65, but what does our income plan look like throughout our retirement lifestyle? Right?
Okay, Joe, thank you so much. Kevin, this next one, inflation eroding my buying power. That's a fear that a lot of people are taking to bed with them. Inflation eroding my buying power.
Yeah, it's a fear, but it's reality. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, over the last 21 years, inflation has doubled the expenses that we have. I mean, the cost of goods and services that we have, food, housing, healthcare will rise, which will reduce the retirement income. That's just reality. So we need to plan for this. Have a plan in place that can keep up with inflation. Is your investments keeping up with inflation? If your money's all in the bank or in CDs, it's probably not keeping up with inflation.
Yeah.
If all your money's in aggressive stocks, it's not keeping up with inflation because the stock market's going to do what it's going to do.
Sure.
And so we need to make sure that that inflation is a huge factor. Even there's inflation on Social Security, so there's cost of living adjustments, but it doesn't keep up with inflation.
All the time. That's
Okay.
right.
So those are all things that we need to plan for.
Okay, perfect. Have that buffer in there just in case, because you just never know where that's going to be.
That's right.
Joe, this next one, not qualifying for full Social Security benefits. That's a fear that people are having right now.
Yeah, that's a big question. When should I turn on my Social Security? And a lot of people will say, well, when should I retire? And they mean, when should I turn on my Social Security? And these might be different dates. You might actually cease your full-time work at a different time and when you turn your Social Security on. So we need to understand that there's some decisions, very important decisions we need to make. And yeah, I can see why that is a fear, but it doesn't have to be. If you sit down with somebody who's gone through this and does this over and over again, we are individualizing the plan for the people that we work with. Your Social Security decision is unique to you. There is no one right answer across the board for everybody.
Right.
So while that's a fear, it doesn't have to be.
And I think a lot of people are taking advice from friends at the water cooler when they're saying, well, you should turn it on now because it's going away.
Right.
And it's not a one size fits all. And you speak a lot about that in the workshops that you do, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep.
they're taking advice from friends, family, relatives, and they're all well-intentioned.
Right.
They're also taking advice from the internet. And so it's a lot of times that's just like here's what you should do. They don't know the person's situation.
Right.
So sitting down with someone face to face that focuses on retirement planning and all aspects of it is so important.
There's implications of taking your Social Security early at full retirement age or deferring it. There's pluses and minuses to all of that. It needs to fit within your overall plan to maximize your success and meet your goals.
I think the
Absolutely.
average person comes in thinking in their planning process in their head is that I want to retire at 62 or I want to retire at 65, but I also want to wait till I'm 70 to take my Social Security because I get the maximum benefit. And they can't like coordinate in their head like what do I do between then?
True. Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
So
See
I think
that.
it's just sitting down with us. We help them just to bring this to fruition, to reality. Hey, that just because you're done working doesn't mean you have to start taking Social Security. You can delay that, but sometimes it does mean you have to start taking Social Security. But it's just part of the planning.
Sure. It all comes down to proper
Yep.
planning.
Yep.
Well, Kevin, this next one, what about unexpected expenses? Wow, that's people having fear with that before they retire too early. Unexpected expenses like home repairs, family support. People are nervous about not having enough.
Yes, so that is a real fear, but it's also a reality. You know, there's always unexpected things that are going to occur. So having that nest egg, that safety net set aside 3 to 6 to 12 months of expenses set aside will help you alleviate some of those unexpected expenses. One of our questions we ask our folks is that, do you have enough money saved outside of your investments to handle these emergencies, these unexpected expenses? And if they don't, we need to put a plan together to have that.
If you've not started establishing that emergency fund, then this very well may be a very real fear for you and something that you need to address right away.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how do you assess the amount that's needed, Joe? I want to ask you before we take our next commercial break, and I know it's different for everyone. So
Yeah.
what types of questions do you ask to help assess how much they need?
Yeah, we're trying to find out exactly what kind of lifestyle we're looking at. What is our paychecks and playchecks scenario? What is the needs that we need to meet each month? And where are the lifestyle expenses that we may be able to cut back? And now we can start determining, is that 6, 12 months, and what does that look like, right? Do we have specific plans we need to plan for? A new car, a new roof,
Right.
Things like that. We've got a wedding perhaps coming up in a couple of years? So there's maybe some specific events or things that we want to plan for, but otherwise we want to use some generalized numbers that we can establish a cushion there.
Yeah, these are real
Okay.
questions. These are real concerns of people.
Yeah.
I met with a couple just last week that has 2 kids in college, and they want to plan for one of them getting married over the next year. So where does that money come from?
Exactly.
That's a lot of money. 2
Yeah.
kids in college and a wedding.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And it's just like, so proper planning helps them to bring this into a picture, them to see, hey, this is going to work out.
Yep.
And here's where the money's coming from. Here's how I am able to pay for that.
And the earlier we start planning, the easier to be able to reach those goals it becomes.
Most definitely.
Are we ready to retire?
Well, Kevin, you and Joe have a very special offer to present. Let's talk about what that is, because you've talked about the importance of proper planning.
Yes. So we're offering you to come in and talk with us one-on-one, get some great advice, just one-on-one with us, put together a customized complimentary plan that fits your need based on what your desires are, your goals, your income, your expenses, all that. Planning for long-term care, health care, taxes, estate, making sure that you're leaving the legacy to your children where you want them to go. So those are all real things that people are concerned about, and they want a plan in place. So come on in, pick up the phone, scan the QR code, call 888-959-2743. Pick up the phone, call us. We'll take care of it for you.
Kevin, thank you so much. Joe, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, remember this is completely complimentary. No obligation whatsoever for this consultation. You deserve to have a retirement plan. Excuse me, that number is 888-959-2743, 888-959-2743, or you can click on the QR code, which takes you right to the landing page of First Choice Financial Services Incorporated, and you can schedule your time accordingly. You've worked your entire life. You deserve to have peace of mind and not any of these top 10 common retirement fears. We'll be right back momentarily. Stay with us.
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. After nearly a lifetime on the job, you should be rewarded for all the time you spent working. Whether that's crossing off items on your bucket list, learning a new passion, or rekindling the love of an old one. After all, life isn't over when you stop working. It's the start of an all-new chapter, the one where you're the writer and you get to choose how your story will go. A way to achieve that is by having a clear financial plan to sustain your golden years. The biggest fear most retirees have is if they'll have enough money to maintain the lifestyle they've always enjoyed. Having a plan to help protect you against the curveballs life often throws will help to maintain your lifestyle. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Welcome back to Mid-State Money Talk. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, joined today by Kevin Dietrich and Joe Dietrich. They're partners of First Choice Financial Services Incorporated. And you're watching a show about the top 10 common fears that people have about retiring too soon. Kevin, I want to guide this next one to you now that I got your last name proper,
Yes,
if you will.
That's right. It's tough to say. I understand.
Right? Well, I don't know where that whole tongue twisting thing came in. But losing employer benefits. People are sometimes nervous about losing those benefits.
Sure they are, because they've been grown accustomed to having that. For 30, 40 years, they have life insurance, and sometimes from the employer, health insurance.
Yeah.
They have contributions going into the 401k. They're putting money into the 401k. So if a market does what the market is going to do, it's okay, because it sort of stays steady, because they're putting more money in, the employer's putting money in, the market takes a turn, then comes back, and so it's all comfort. It's known. But when you start that process of looking at retirement, there's unknowns. What
Absolutely.
do I do? Do I have enough life insurance? Well, do you need life insurance? Or don't you need life insurance? So we look at that from a planning perspective. Health insurance, I'm losing my health insurance through my employer, which has co-pays and deductibles. And how do I transition to Medicare? What choices do I make? We touched on that before. So many choices out there, so many things that people say is here's the way you should go. But does it fit your plan? Does it fit what's good for you?
Sure.
Those contributions going into the 401k, you're no longer putting money into it. The employer's not putting money into it. Now you have to withdraw the money out. How's it taxed? Where do I draw the money from first? So those are all unknowns. So it's not just losing the employer benefits, it's just losing that comfort zone that we've become accustomed to as employees.
Absolutely.
Uncharted territory. We talk about it all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, this next one, regretting the decisions. People are usually nervous about retiring too early because they're afraid they're going to regret their choice. That comes from more of an emotional aspect. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, certainly. So, we see this all the time. We have the honeymoon phase. We're excited. We're looking forward to the retirement date. That first month or two, we're doing all the fun things that we feel like we haven't been able to do. That's the honeymoon phase. But often we find then we get into the disenchantment phase where it's like, is this all there is, right? And so then we need to, that's a very critical spot, because we can either kind of slide into the depression area, or we're going to be able to reorient ourselves to our new lifestyle. Well, we would recommend that you put a little test before you retire in some areas. So maybe take a few months and live on your retirement budget. Or if you say maybe I want to move to a different state when I retire, well, how about can I take a sabbatical and move there for an extended period of time, say 2 months or so, and live like I would live there in retirement? So if you can at all possible test out your retirement ahead of time, this is one way to really alleviate this type of fear.
I love that. So you're kind of kicking the tires to make sure that that's really what you want to do.
Absolutely. And we talked again, and we want to be forward focusing. We're looking at what are we retiring to, not what are we retiring from.
Yes,
Yep.
yes, absolutely. Well, Kevin, this next one, what about outliving a spouse or becoming a burden? That's a fear that a lot of people are having right now.
Sure, we hear that a lot from our folks that come in, and we ask them, what's your maybe top 5 concerns when it comes to retirement? Outliving the money is always one of the biggest things. Taxes is another big concern. We listed 10 of them here.
Yes.
And we hear these 10 all the time. This is the last one we're talking about, is becoming a burden to the spouse.
Right.
Or becoming a burden to the children. No parent wants to have to move in with their child,
That's true.
towards the end of their life. No one does. So that's a huge fear. Retirement is an emotional decision.
Absolutely.
People don't realize the emotion aspect of it until they're actually getting closer to that date. And then, we have, as Joe mentioned, folks that come in our office all the time that have just been retired and they're in the honeymoon phase and it's going great. And then maybe a year later, we do a review with them and they're bored.
Yeah.
Because they haven't done some of these things that they've always feared, that they have a purpose,
And hopefully we hear them saying, well, you know what, I picked up a part-time job and I'm loving it, or
Yes.
I've started volunteering. Those are the stories we like to hear.
So we encourage those things
Yep.
as well, because we know it's an emotional decision. But becoming a burden to your spouse or your children is a huge thing. And so we have to make sure that we understand that and come into it from a proper perspective.
Yep.
Considering several types of accounts, annuities, estate planning, life insurance, those are all things that can have guaranteed sources of income coming in. An annuity can have a source of income coming in later down the road if a spouse passes away.
Yeah.
So then that relieves some of that burden. How's the expenses going to happen? How's my wife going to keep living the life she's accustomed to? As a man, that is a huge problem or a concern for me. Personally, I know a lot of other men as well, is that my wife's going to be taken care of.
Yes, she's going to be okay.
Having an annuity in place or having life insurance in place or having, doing proper estate planning is so important.
Yep.
Yes.
We can help with all of that.
You can, most definitely. Well, Joe, on that vein, I know that you and Kevin have a very special offer to the viewers at home. Talk about what that is today.
Absolutely. We talk about turning these fears into peace of mind, right?
Yes.
And so proper planning is where it starts. And that's what we would like to do. We'd like to offer you a complimentary retirement plan that is specialized just for you. Because your plan's not going to look like anybody else's. To be able to start that, we want you to give us a call or to click on the QR code. So call the number on the screen or pick up your phone and scan that QR code. You can even just go directly to our website, firstchoicefinancialservicesinc.com, and you'll be able to get in touch with us and we'll be able to schedule you.
Joe, thank you, Kevin.
Absolutely.
Thank you to our viewers at home. Thank you for spending time with us today. Be safe, be happy, and be blessed.